my goal for the podcast is to share the best practices of, volleyball training and sports performance training in general. And so I'm just gonna have people like yourself who's very experienced in either volleyball or the training space and just help my audience and followers just understand, especially the ones that are just getting into volleyball, like help them, um, especially the ones that don't have a lot of opportunities, like to go play club or whatever, or the resources around them to train, to help them to train and get better. Just like probably like when you first started, there was not a lot of opportunities around, and like I want to see how, like how what your thought process was like in training and how you got better. Okay, so this is Tad's is it Sahara or Sahara?
Sahara. Sahara.
Sahara.
Sahara.
My bad, Sensei. Sahara. So this is Tadashi. Is it Tad or Tadashi?
Either or, Tad or Tadashi. Tadashi is
Okay.
my real name. Tad is my, I guess, my fake name. My college roommate gave it to me because he said your name is very hard to say, and so the first three letters of my name. He was a Swedish dude, and he said, "I'm just gonna call you Tad because I can't say your name."
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
But Tad is the founder of Tsunami Volleyball, and he is my mentor, my sensei. And I've considered you a sensei for 10 plus years now, ever since I started at Tsunami. And especially when we were on the same team, that's when I learned a lot about volleyball. So definitely consider you one of my mentors for volleyball and for life.
I'm honored. I think it's teams plural, right? Not
Yeah,
team.
teams. Yeah, teams.
Okay, just making
Yeah,
sure.
but when that one year when I was head coaching and you were assisting me, that's when I really learned a lot from you. Because when I first came in to coach and I was helping you out, I had no context of what volleyball was. So I was just like trying to like absorb as much terminology and like concepts as possible, but I really didn't know the game like that. But when I kind of understood the game and I started head coaching and you were assisting me, like you really taught me the ins and outs of the game that I didn't even know. And that's I think that you really leveled up my coaching game a lot.
I
So
appreciate
yes, but first and foremost, you are my mentor and sensei. So I will let you introduce yourself a little bit for the people that don't know you. Um, yeah, go ahead.
it. Yeah, like Coach T said, I am. Um, I started Tsunami in the year 2000, so we're getting close to that year 25 in a couple of years. Um, I coached high school for quite a bit. I think my back my background prior to coaching was basically as a player, and so I never really had in mind stepping into the coaching world until a friend of mine talked me into it. And I think it was a natural progression because I love volleyball. I love playing volleyball. And so just being a part of the sport, I figured long term, I can't play volleyball forever. And so it's a good way to stay in the sport. So um, yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I outside of volleyball, I teach Japanese at the high school level, um, and that to me is my classroom or it's my court that I have a classroom for. So I kind of treat my students the same way as I would my players.
Yeah, because ultimately coaching is just teaching, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I love that. And I love how you talk about like your classroom experiences and all these people come into your classroom like talking about anime and stuff, and that's and that's also like later on in the fun in the fun questions. I got some for you about that. But
I
my
knew
first
immediately when I talked about my classroom, you were going to say, "Oh, we're going to talk about anime." Uh, Japanese is all about anime. And it's day one. I have to make sure to remind my students, okay, if you're in here because you want to listen to, or watch anime without the dubs, then you're in here for the wrong reason. It's a good way for them to get the hook to be in. So I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Honestly, if I was in high school, I would take Japanese
Hey, you
just
would.
because of anime. Yes.
I think it would be just because of me, but whatever.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Of course. And my first question for you is, when did your volleyball journey actually begin?
Um, I mean, I think ultimately it was kind of in my roots. My aunt played semi-professional. She basically was hired onto her company had a team, and so which was a lower tier professional league team. Um, and I guess I was kind of, and another aunt of mine was kind of in the same situation, not as high as the level, um, but that was kind of it's not really my origin or my initial start with it, but I think it was already within me that this is something that was part of who I am. I really started a little bit in college, playing intramurals, not really seriously. After graduating, I picked up a game called volleyball, which is played inside a racquetball court. Probably, I wish the sport was a little bit more popular. I think the access to racquetball courts is very limited, but it's such a fast paced game. You play the ball off the walls, and it makes you learn angles and things like that. You can play with two people or four people on a side. But then I moved to beach, and ultimately moved to setting on a six-person team, whether it was co-ed or men's. And that was pretty much it. But I was hooked, I think, because of this sense of it's hard to play the game well without your partners or your team. And the sense of teamwork, and the sense of just friendships that develop through the game, yeah, it's unbeatable. So
Yeah, I definitely can relate to that because when I first started volleyball is I got hooked because of my friends. Like our friendship and bond grew as we played the sport. So that's what really got me hooked. So you're saying you were a setter.
I was a center.
So you're saying you Kageyama.
No, I was a kinder and gentler center. Actually, maybe not. I was definitely a competitor. I know in my time I was probably a jerk to a lot um, of my teammates.
Mhm.
But I think there are times and I think if I were coaching myself, there were certainly moments where I would have to say, "Hey, Dad, we're gonna have a little talk here. You're gonna have to hold in some of your emotions, And I think when I reflect on that, it's like okay, but I definitely learned as I grew older. Just especially I think as I started coaching,
Yeah,
that aspect of understanding of teammates and things like that really kind of hit home. So
yeah. So sorry, I have some questions written down right here. And so if I ever look like this, I'm looking at my notes.
all good.
I'm not looking at my phone. So what advice would you give to someone just starting their volleyball journey on like the obviously the skill development of the game, but also like the mental side of the game? Because I know the mental side is so big in volleyball.
Ooh, I don't know if honestly, I don't know if you focus on the mental side,
Mm,
initially if you're just starting,
yeah,
and you just play.
just play.
Now, I think too often these days you have too many coaches, you have um, too many instruction, too many drills and things like that. Um, and I get it. A lot of the the kids start so young, and so there's not that many opportunities to just play. But I know, from a, especially if it's an adult, there's so many rec leagues where you just play, the tournaments on the weekends. I think those are great. And ultimately, I think once you get that taste of it, and once you get the bug of volleyball, then that
Mm.
interest. Okay, let me really, dip into the mental side of it. Let me really dip into the technical side of it. Um, I think that's the natural progression. Is you have to get a feeling of the love of the game, um, and then really level up, and kind of go from there. I don't know. What do
Yeah,
you think?
no, that makes a lot of sense because because I think that's in everything that I got into, that was the progression. Like you get interested in it, then you do it a lot without even thinking like how to do it right, right? You just do it and then you like doing it, and then as you like doing it more and more, you want to get better at it, and then you start researching and trying to level up and stuff.
I think in your case, you hate losing. You
Yeah,
know,
that yeah,
I mean,
you're
you,
right.
you
You're right
beat
about
so
that.
many times, like I got to change what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Kind of like your pickleball game.
Yeah. Start watching like the best in the world, be like, I need to learn something.
100%. Yeah, that's exactly what I feel like the journey is. It's like, okay, I enjoy this, but I don't do the things that other people do. What's different about it? Let me look into this. So yeah,
Yeah. And I do agree with you that that for especially for the newer players that are getting to volleyball, play is probably the biggest, like the most important thing.
yeah,
Like, yeah, just play a lot because you develop the love of the game. Because like when you drill technique so much at the beginning, you don't have the chance to be creative. Like some people are just like, you gotta have that chance to be creative and not learn in such a structured way, because there's so many different ways to play volleyball or any sport that you go into. And that's why like players like Steph Curry, they changed the game because like
yeah.
he found his own way. So yeah, I totally agree with you on that. So but in terms of like specifically, like let's say they just started getting an interest in volleyball, what skill sets would you say is the most important for a new volleyball player to um accumulate?
What skill sets?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Or what skills?
what skill? I mean, obviously serving and passing. You know you start the game with a serve.
Yeah.
You or you start the play with a serve, and the second touch is a pass. So I mean, if you can't do either of those, then you're in trouble. But at the same time, I don't know if there's a first thing that you focus on.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think it goes back to what do you like doing? You know, like if you like to be the hammer, you want to be an attacker, then you love hitting the ball. It's like focus on that. Make yourself better with that. The other stuff will kind of come as it goes. I don't know if there's a I don't know if there's a this isn't blue lock. This isn't that where we're just setting people to this factory and saying, all right, we're going to make the perfect volleyball player. And um, I think everyone has their own journey. So I don't know if there's a right answer. What do you think?
I think that is the right answer for most things. It depends. It depends. I don't know. And the and like we're both in like our fitness journey, and as we learn more stuff like Mark Bell podcast, you start listening to people, and usually the ones you got to watch out for are the ones that say, hey, this is the way to do it, you got to do it this way, this way, this way, when the answer as a coach is usually, well, it depends, what do you want to do, like what is your goal, and then you go from there. So I like that answer.
That's always a turnoff for me. Is you're right when someone says this is the absolute only way to do it. It's like, okay, I get it, but maybe my my anatomy doesn't make myself, that's not suited to me.
But
Yeah.
inside ankle bone high though.
Inside joke there. I like it.
All right. So, but we can both agree though that although like yes, like everyone should kind of have this natural progression on like if you love something, probably go into that. But as a volleyball coach, we both understand that serving and passing is probably the most important fundamental skills that you probably need as a volleyball player. Uh, Serving for sure because everyone has to serve. Passing if you're everyone but the setter. But really, even as a setter, passing, you still need to know how to pass because like what happens on defense, maybe not serve receive, but just the understanding of how to pass. So let's go into serving and passing a little bit. And what cues or what concepts would you like to share on serving and passing that would help a newer volleyball player with performing and executing that skill?
Ooh, two totally different skills. So, I
Yeah.
mean, I think I think passing is the focus on your feet. I think too often we don't force ourselves to get to a prime location, a prime spot to pass. I think a lot of players get a little lazy with their footwork, where it's like this is okay, instead of getting all the way there. I think that's probably and I don't know if that's, I mean, it is a skill, but I don't know if it's um, necessarily, what is the right word? Um, I mean, it is taught, but I don't know what I'm trying to say. But I think the cue for that we talk about is we'll talk about left knee, possibly right knee, possibly forehead. As far as this is the location that we want to contact the ball. It doesn't always work that way,
Hmm.
but the effort of doing everything you can to get to the ball before the ball gets to the point of contact, is what we're looking for. I think that's huge. As far as serving goes, ooh, what's the most important item? Um, Gosh, that's a hard one. I think again, this is going to go back to different people are different ways, so I wouldn't treat necessarily everyone the same. I think what I see at especially the younger level, I think the point of contact, and I guess it's the same. This actually might be the same as passing, but it's the point of contact. I think too often kids, the tendency for younger kids is to contact behind them. I feel like, um, instead of a little in front of them, and so it's all the toss. I think the toss
Yeah.
tends to waver, behind their head. Um, so I always try to have them basically, stand right against the wall. And so if this is a wall, I would have them just toss the ball right on the wall where the ball, I don't know if this is a good visual, but the ball kind of goes against the wall here and just contact the ball where the ball's pinned against the wall.
Right. I've
Just so
seen that done a lot. Talking about like this and the walls right here, and there's the ball,
that,
and you just go like,
where they have a guideline of I want to toss this ball, not like I think a lot of times kids don't toss the ball straight up,
hmm
and so they toss a little bit behind them. But they I think they get a feel of, and as soon as you try to pin it against the wall, there's a lot of there's immediate feedback. You don't really need a coach. It's like as soon as that ball's not controllable, if the ball is a little behind you, it's not going to be controlled. If the ball you toss it where it hits the wall, obviously that's going to jack up your swing too. But if you put it right, like a half inch, 1 inch right against the wall, then it just becomes easy. So that to me is kind of an easy something for, especially for younger kids.
yeah.
But yeah, so I think for both, it's point of contact. You know, maximizing that point of contact. But I was able to put it into one.
I love that because that's what my thought process is how can you have the most consistent contact that you can? And like because ultimately, like I tell my athletes this all the time. It's like when when Brazilians dig the ball sometimes, like they dig it with their feet. How
Yep.
are they able to do that? Like they just have such a good understanding of point of contact and they have such a good feel for their feet with that point of contact. You don't necessarily have to always contact with your arms. Like there are some people that contact like this, but at the end of the day, how can you make that contact consistent? And all this technique kind of reinforces that goal, which is your body just organized around that goal, which is how can I make this contact the most consistent as I can? And with passing is in order to have a consistent contact, you have to be at a right, a good position or the right position. But just a consistent position to make that contact. Because it's unreasonable to make this if this is the ball, and it's unreasonable for me to make this contact point if I'm like this far away, you know.
Sure.
So I think that you were right on the money with that, where it's like get your body in a position to make the most consistent contact point and then go from there. For serving, it's going to be that toss is going to dictate a lot of that contact point. That's why we stress the toss so much. And for passing, it's the feet that gets you in a position to make that contact. So I 100% agree with you on that. So as you were talking, I was happy because I was like, okay, I'm on the right track here because, like I was like, yes, I'm coaching my athletes, something that makes sense because you're like, this is kind of like the first time, I'm asking you these questions. So you're kind of affirming to me that I'm on the right track. So thank
And certainly, I'm not the end all that and be all that. It's
I
like
know, yeah.
I think we're always looking for that a little bit more.
Yeah,
And one of the dangers though of also you know stressing technique and the point of contact. Sometimes the kids are too rigid.
yeah,
Where if they aren't able to get to that point of contact, then their technique, because they're so focused on technique, sometimes they aren't able to make the foot dig. They
yeah,
aren't able to make the um what is it, whatever it is, the shoulder dig,
yeah,
chicken wing. So you, I don't know. There's that fine line of coaching him and working on techniques, and um I don't know. It's interesting because some kids get it, some kids, man, it's tough.
yeah. And I think kids that don't play a lot, because obviously it was kind of different back then. Play is so creative because like if you're in a structured like sport from a young age and you're being told what to do all the time, it's kind of hard to let your mind be creative and just be like, hey, go out there and make something happen, and create.
The, I think the beauty of what adults get to do is they get to play against a lot of different people who have a lot of different experiences. I think when we think about age groups, they're kind of confined in this small box of this is how the game's played.
Yeah.
And so, I remember playing at nationals once when we were playing a team from I forgot where they were from, but maybe they were from uh, Latin America, but they basically got bored against us and they started just chest passing, you know. Um, and
I can't imagine that.
I mean,
I
it was
cannot
embarrassing,
imagine that.
and it's like, and we had a good time with it, but and they weren't doing it really in a mean way, but you know, but there, that's how you kind of start, gaining some things where you see other people doing it. And you're like, oh, there's another, obviously I would never teach a chess class,
Right.
but those kind of things, you start seeing different techniques, and you're going, oh, I can do that too. You know,
Yeah.
it's so I
And
don't
it's
know.
probably they probably have really good control with their other body parts because of soccer, probably big in Latin America. So they probably are confident of like just being like, oh, like I have control there too. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool
Yeah,
stuff.
super cool. Like and as I kind of go through my journey of being a coach, I 100% realized that there's so many different ways to do one thing.
Yeah.
And like one way might work for one person and one way, then that way might not work for another person. So it's just good to get perspectives from different coaches, especially the ones that, you know, that I that inspires me. So it's good to just get those perspectives because, sometimes we're stuck in our own little box. So next question is what do you think is the biggest roadblock that gets in the way of an athlete's progress?
Um, I mean, I think it's magnified now. Recently, not recently, but it's been kind of trending towards this. Is there's so many other options for kids to do, or so many other things for kids to do. I think when I first started, um, volleyball was their thing, and when um, they would, people would put everything into volleyball. I think now you have so many other, opportunities, so many other things that, um, that are available to them. And so and I'm not knocking that, I certainly want kids to have great opportunities and, you know, having chances to do things that they're interested in. But and I don't think that's changed. I think it's just magnified, in today's world. But I think that's probably the biggest thing is the lack of uh, focus is probably not the right word of it, but just the lack of commitment, maybe,
Right.
um, to their craft.
Yeah.
And I think that's true, in the workplace too. That I think there are too many things that are pulling us into different directions that sometimes it's hard for us to focus. Um,
That makes sense.
yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Uh, and it's hard for us to be consistent at our craft when we got our attention, especially now that, there's the phone, our attention is pulled in so many different directions. And we love multi-sport athletes, but sometimes it can take away that time and energy from the craft that we're trying to get
Yeah.
into. So
And when you think about the phone, like just a simple fact of um, kids being on a weekend tournament with the team with volleyball, something that me as a kid I didn't get the opportunity to do. And I can only imagine if I were a kid and I had that chance, I would be in heaven. I mean, that would
yeah,
be amazing to me. But I think, too often the kids are like, oh, what is my friend doing? Oh my gosh, they're going to the concert and, they're going to the Taylor Swift concert and, blah, blah, blah. And those are those pools that I just think are magnified now. And that's
yeah,
tough. It's a different world.
it is. It is. And like when I personally, I am not, you know, poo-pooing these kids because I myself, as an adult, feel the effects of this.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, I see my attention like getting drawn to the phone all the time, and I have to consciously pull myself back. And it's hard. It is
But
hard.
is that also because you are Jumpstar and you are content? What's going on there? It's like, see, I think you're still trying to, you're trying to figure it out. It's like, okay, hey, there's something here. I
Yeah.
got something. I'm
Yeah.
creating.
That
That's
is
good.
true, but there are times when like I'm just on YouTube Shorts. I'm not creating content there, but it's just like I'm in the shower. Why do I need my YouTube Shorts open?
I think everyone does that though. I don't think, I mean,
Yeah,
that's this it's a different world again. And I do think I don't do this, but I do think everyone needs like, a time in the day where they take a, break where there's
yeah,
nothing,
yeah,
and I got, if I'm washing dishes or I'm doing, I've got something playing, I'm
yeah.
listening to, you
Same.
know,
Yeah,
but I do think there should be that time that, where you just kind of disconnect and it's just you. But
yeah.
I,
Because I I listened to it and I started thinking about this because I listened to a podcast talking about it. But they talked about like how often do you actually listen to your own thoughts? Like what are you actually thinking instead of like always listening to external thoughts and ideas? Like what are you actually thinking in your head? So it just made me think I don't think there's a right or wrong way to, you know, do anything with that, but I do realize that I do need more time for my head space just to be me instead of like always consuming someone else's thoughts because it reaches a certain point where even though like listening to David Goggins might inspire me and all this stuff, like eventually it's like what am I gonna do with it? You know, am I just gonna keep on like consuming all this motivation stuff without taking action on any of it? Like, is that even worthwhile, you know?
but you are taking action then.
Not as much as I want, I guess. This is taking action though. But you know, like I'm very like I have like ambitious goals and stuff, and like it's required a lot of work. Like this is part of it, but you know, trying to stay hard. But let's move on to like the fun portion of the podcast. Number one, why do you like haiku so much? You knew I was gonna ask something about haiku too. So why
Um,
do you love haiku?
it's funny because you know, in class, my kids will ask, or basically, I'll say, you know what, I don't watch anime. It's like, don't ask me about anime. And then they look around the room and they're like, Sensei, why are there so many haiku posters up? That's not really volleyball, And so, why do I like haiku so much? Is because it's volleyball. The moments and where the moments that are created, where there's that question of, should I do this, should I do that, there's that emotional sense of volleyball. It really I feel like it draws in any player who's played, um where that struggle, you know
Mm,
um the feeling of, should I talk for this ball, or should I just let it go? Should I say something? Should I say, those kind of things that, and obviously this is, I not obviously for some people who have never seen the show, but it might take 20 minutes to figure out that one.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, I don't know, what should I do? Should I do this? Should I do that? But the fact that they can tap into those areas that are so lifelike in volleyball is what really hooked me. It's
Yeah,
fun,
it is. It is.
and
And there's something about the way they tell the story. Like it doesn't just connect volleyball players. Like because I know a lot of people that gets into volleyball because they watch Haikyuu, but it just connects like some kind of human emotion of like team camaraderie, teammates not wanting like not giving up on something that you love. It's that emotion of like it's an intense emotion of like passion and like love for something. And I think it connects basically I would say not everyone, because there are people who watch it and be like, this is stupid, you know. Why are they yelling so much? Like, why are they yeah. But for the people that gets it, like, it really hits deep. It
Well, the other part of it is that, volleyball, there's not a lot of sports like volleyball that really height is such a detriment,
Yeah,
and when you think about Hinata, the main character, who's tiny, um, being the hero in this anime, I think that's what draws a lot of people in. I like that fact, but and maybe that might have been the initial thing because I'm only 5'5" and playing a sport designed for big people.
yeah,
Uh, and so I've always kind of, I've had that chip on my shoulder of, hey, it's not about the size of the person, it's the size of the heart, and I
yeah.
think Hinata exemplifies that, the size of the heart is what really matters. Um, Now, if you go up against a 6'9" person, then maybe not, all day long. I don't know.
Yeah, no, well said. I like that. All right, next question. What about David Goggins inspires you?
Um, I I think the biggest thing is just the sense of consistency, um, and doing things that are difficult. Um, you know, I really like the idea of him talking about doing challenging things that not only are physically tough, but probably more so mentally tough.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't necessarily. I think for me, when um, for me physically, I probably don't do enough of the mental toughness, because now what I do physically is pretty routine. So I probably need to change that up as far as developing new routines. But I just appreciate his message about doing things that are really tough, um, and kind of embracing it. What about you?
Same. That's literally it. I recently watched the podcast with him on Andrew Huberman. Have you seen that one?
Yep.
Yeah, and he really goes deep into that message of do it because it's hard. He runs because he hates to run. Like,
Correct. That was a little. That was definitely a little weird.
it was a little weird.
You know, it, yeah, that was the idea of hate, because I ultimately when I'm you know I kind of enjoy some of the struggle.
Yeah.
I've learned to, so I don't know about the hate.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. Of course, I haven't done a cold plunge or anything like that, so that might be a different level because I can't
Yeah,
imagine
cold plunges suck.
like just taking a cold shower on a day like this that's 20 degrees.
Hmm.
I want to do that.
Yeah, I don't either.
Uh,
And in that video, Andrew Huberman puts the science behind it, like whether it's true or not, but he talks about like this part of your brain where when you do things that are tough that you don't want to do, but you do it anyway, you grow this part of your brain, like a muscle or whatever, that grows, I would say willpower, right? The willpower muscle that grows as you do things that are tough. But let's, ooh, I have that book.
I mean, that's kind of what that is. You those small things that
Hmm.
are not necessarily just out of the norm,
Hmm.
um, is what, as you said, grows that willpower.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah.
But the thing is, like, what, like you said, like, let's say you was jumping rope because it was hard, right? But now you're is a routine and you kind of it's not that hard anymore. That you're not even though you're doing the same thing, you're not developing the same amount of willpower as when did it when it was hard before when you first started. So that's why David Goggins like consistently do things that he doesn't like every single day. And I think that's what inspires me the most is that he doesn't he it's not about the running. It's not about the extreme exercises. It's about he doesn't like to do it and mentally he makes himself do it anyways. Because I know for me, when I don't like to do something or I don't want to do something, it's so hard for me to get myself up and to do
Mhm.
it. And because it's hard, that's what inspires me. Because it's
Yeah.
hard. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the next challenge for you?
Um, I haven't thought about a next challenge. I have so much on my plate right now.
You do. Yeah.
Yeah. My next challenge is to get married and have a family, like that's the biggest thing that's on my mind right
That's a
now.
big
It's
challenge.
like yeah,
Good
yeah.
luck to you. That's a
All
challenge.
right. Do you miss the jumpy thing?
The what?
The jumpy thing.
Oh, of course I do. I mean, it's like I look at my coaches now. I'm like, no, they're not gonna do the jumping. You need to explain that because that right now everyone's thinking, what
So
is wrong?
basically, yeah, I was planning on explaining it. Basically, what
You're gonna need to put a picture.
oh yeah.
Um,
I have a
uh,
picture of that.
so you're gonna need to put that on the thumbnail or whatever. Because that, yeah, you won't understand it if
It's good that Tsunami has a picture of us doing the jumpy thing, remember?
it is.
Um, but basically our it was the COVID year season. We we were on the same team. I was the head coach. You were assisting me, and we had this celebration where every time our athletes do something amazing, and amazing could just be like they did something that we worked on in practice, and it like and
Or just
they finally do it and they finally execute. It didn't have to be like a straight down smash. It's just whatever that we thought was amazing. And we would just do eye contact. We were every single time we would make eye contact and you're like, oh, do you see that? Because I thought I was good. And that was our cue to then approach and jump up and do like just like a body bump. And we would go, woo, like Ric Flair. And that was our jumpy thing. And
okay.
it was contagious. It gave our team so much energy. And you know how hard it is to create energy when you're playing and competing. And I think give that gave us as coaches like a lot of energy to like number one, give our team energy, contribute to our team. And number two, just make it a lot of fun to coach and enjoy enjoy coaching, enjoy the game and everything. And yeah, it was fun. It was a fun year.
Yeah, I think anytime I mean, just that even just the idea of smiling kind of releases endorphins. And so,
Yeah.
when you think about just doing something, a simple act of, celebrating with a weird celebration, those are the things that I think keep you going and hopefully keep some sanity, in this amazing world of coaching,
Yeah.
because we certainly go through some tough times. And if you can't celebrate the good times, then ooh, it's going to be a short
Yeah.
time for you.
Yeah. Because it is tough. It is tough sometimes. Like you got to fight through it. But like at the end of the day, like I love coaching. Like I just love to teach. Like
Mhm.
in any form or whatever, just like being able to teach someone to do something that they wanted to like achieve, it gives you this fulfillment that like nothing else really gives you.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I got into coaching. I got into teaching. That aha moment is what I live for.
Yeah.
That's why I did.
It gets me every time when they when it clicks and they're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. You see that smile on their face, and it's like, okay, this is boy, that the whole rest of practice was horrible, but that made up for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I know you gotta go soon, so let me give you one last question. Um, what lesson or lessons would you want to pass down to your teenage self? Could be volleyball or life.
I mean, it's probably the same thing that I attempt to pass on to my athletes and my students is it's all about your effort and it's all about your enthusiasm for the things that you do. I think if you can give 100% effort, whether it's physically, mentally, and you can do it with a smile and you can do it with enthusiasm, you're going to live a good life. That's it in a nutshell. Um, I think younger self, for the most part, did that. There were times the enthusiasm might not have been there, but and certainly the times when the effort might not have been there, but I think I tried at least.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. That's I love that message. Thank you. Thank you,
I've
Sensei.